proceed. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I represent the mighty constituency of Tobago West. I heard some member over there on the opposite side said Tobago West rejected me. Tobago West voted for me over and over again, resoundingly, and there was no need for any recount at any time. I have doubled votes on my opponents, not once but twice, and I shall do so again. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we in the constituency of Tobago West, we moved from our Spring Garden office to Scarborough to better serve our constituents. We are now in a central location. The traffic has been good. We've been reaching out to constituents and they've been enjoying the service of the constituency. I want to say thank you to my constituents first and foremost. If it weren't for them, I would not be here. It is a pleasure to serve the people I love. We are still walking each and every week, talking with our constituents, learning from them, loving them, and doing what we ought to do as a representative of Tobago West. We've had the usual Christmas and Easter festivities. We take pride in educating our constituents, so we have initiatives like women empowerment sessions and the human library and so on. We recently just delivered a book support service to over 120 students for this school year, and I want to thank the parents who had the confidence in Tobago West MP to do so. We continue a weekly walkabouts or roving public day, forms day, Mr. Deputy Speaker, which is one of my favorite initiatives, where we bring the constituents who have forms to fill out, we help them fill out the forms so that they can access grants and access the service of the government and the Tobago House of Assembly. I'm pleased that this government have seen it fit to expand and to support ALTA in adult literacy, because that's a major problem. I know not only in my constituency, but across Trinidad and Tobago, helping constituents understand forms, helping them read, helping them fill out forms. So I'm happy to have Forms Day, and that is one of my most successful initiatives in the constituency. I cannot make my contribution to the budget without speaking a little bit as to the state of affairs in Tobago. As you know, the leadership has changed in Tobago, and I must say that our people are suffering at the mercy of a hapless, hopeless bunch of miscreants. They led us to Watson Duke, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and it has been chaos from day one.
I want to rise on 48.
Mr.
The member is clearly referring to persons of another elected house.
Show me the standing order.
48.8, please.
Mr.
Okay,
Deputy,
one second. No members. Okay, member, I'm sure you can say that differently. I'll appreciate.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, all people in Tobago are suffering at the mercy of a hapless, hopeless bunch of people. Yeah? This bunch of people led us to Watson Duke. And they told us that he was our Messiah and our Savior and they were coming to fix things in Tobago. And that has not been the case. It has been total chaos. And we in Tobago have been in the news for the wrong reasons over the last year. Anybody who is alive and well and see what's taking place in Tobago know that the place heavy, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that it is not what it used to be, that there are people who are afraid to speak up and speak out. They are being victimized politically. You can't even speak on social media to say you have a different point of view. They are being bullied. Mr. Deputy Speaker, they are losing their jobs and being placed on the breadlines. Tobago contractors are being made to suffer. They are being sidelined for work in exchange for providing work and development to Trinidad contractors. And that is the truth as to what is taking place in Tobago, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So when I speak on behalf of the people of Tobago West. And as an MP, I have public day each and every week. And these are the concerns that come to my table, that come to my desk, that come to me in Tobago West, Mr. Deputy Speaker, you see the budget exercise, it's not only about speaking to the figures, but each and every member stood here today and spoke about what is taking place, the state of affairs in their constituency. And if I'm supposed to speak openly and honestly about what is taking place in Tobago, that I will do, and that I must. That is what I was elected to do. But at the end of the day, Mr. Deputy Speaker, despite being bulldozed by keyboard bullies and those who discriminate and those who tell falsehoods to try to, discriminate against the people of Tobago, they say if you look like a PNM, nothing for you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and that has been the experience. But I want to remind you, I am confident that I serve a calm, conscientious, and courageous people. We may be laid back, but we're not backward. And when the time is upon us, we'll do what we must. A word to the wise is sufficient. I am happy that my constituents will benefit from the minimum wage increase, the $1,000 book grants provided by this government, back pay to public servants as promised. At least they're going to get that before the $1,000 ex gratia payment that was promised to them. The tourism accommodation upgrade program, we have extended that program as government to help tourism accommodation entities, not only in Trinidad, but more so in Tobago. I remember when I assumed duties as Minister of Tourism in 2015, the tourism upgrade program was not offered to Tobagonians. Although the bulk of the tourism business was taking place in Tobago, the tourism accommodation upgrade program was not offered to Tobago by the UNC, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And it took this People's National Movement government in December of 2015 to extend that program to the business people in Tobago who are into tourism accommodation. That has been so since December 2015 to today, where they can get 40 to 50% off as they upgrade their rooms and so on, and receive the different incentives from central government. That was not so before December 15th, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So it's really interesting to hear the member from Moruga as she made a contribution about what tourism in Tobago should be, and it's a shame that tourism is not what it should be. When they had their turn, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Crown Point Airport needed upgrade and refurbishment, and they turned a blind eye to that. It took this Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley administration to follow through on the promise that was over 30 years old to expand and refurbish the Crown Point Airport. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Crown Point Airport, the belt that you carry, that the luggage is transported on, was not working, and they provided a slide for people to slide their bags down. It took this People's National Movement government to come into power and to make those changes and to fix the airport, and that $2.1 billion project is taking place today after so many years of promises. We are the government that brought sandals, the offer of sandals to Tobago. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, this opportunity would have provided top-class, world-class rooms to Tobago, improving our product, improving our advertising, which our government could not possibly afford. We know the kind of advertising that Sandals does for its destination. So as much as I heard her compare the figures to Barbados, which has 2 Sandals and a St. Vincent and so on, when you compare our room stock to what is available up the region, Mr. Deputy Speaker, it's chalk and cheese. And I'm not saying that the answer to our tourism problems is Sandals, but it would have certainly helped, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So to sit here and to cringe and cry about what you think tourism should be in Tobago when it was your turn, you did precious nothing. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, our Tobagonians would also benefit from the improved security that we'll be providing at our ports, $80 million towards police vehicles. I know some vehicles have already come in earlier this year, and the Minister of National Security had seen that some of those vehicles had been transferred to Tobago to serve the police in Tobago. The adult literacy program, I spoke about that earlier. $400 million in agri-incentives. And it's interesting because Tobago farmers get 2 bites of the cherry. We get to apply for grants at the Tobago House of Assembly and get grants at the THA and get grants through the Ministry of Agriculture here in Port of Spain. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I've worked with the Minister of Agriculture in providing earlier this year grants from the ministry in Trinidad, paid for by central government to farmers in Tobago who have benefited both from the Tobago House of Assembly grants and the agri grant from the Ministry of Agriculture. So we get 2 bites of the cherry as it relates to many grants, whether it's sports grants, cultural grants, support from NLCB and so on. Just like we have the Elite Athlete Fund in the Ministry of Sport. Here in Port of Spain, there's the Leland Gordon Fund in Tobago, and I don't know how much the Tobago House of Assembly has really used that fund to support its athletes, but I know a lot of the application come to the Ministry of Sport, and we serve and support to the best of our ability. More specifically, Mr. Deputy Speaker, let's talk about the allocation to Tobago, $2.585 billion. And that is $64 million more than what we received last year. It's the usual roughly 4% of the budget. However, it is $64.2 million more than we received last year. Of course, every department, every ministry, and in Tobago, we will call for more funding. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the central government will continue to fund other projects like we usually do in true PNM fashion for the Tobago House of Assembly. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I remember when we were in opposition 2010 to 2015, when the UNC read its budget, there weren't any extra projects for the Tobago House of Assembly. When they gave us our allocation, it was 4.03% flat. If they could take a penny and cut it in 0.3, they would have cut it, Mr. Deputy Speaker. That is how exact the allocation was. So this year we've gotten $4.4 million. I would say nothing to shout, 4.4%. That I would say nothing to shout about because it's the usual, but I am appreciative for the additional works that are going to be done in Tobago through other ministries, whether it's the $400 million to be spent on the airport, the $1.9 million to be spent on the Roxborough Fire Station, works being done at Rockley Bay, at Magdalena, the works that are going to be done at Dwight York Stadium, the contribution towards the desilting of the Hillsborough Dam. That's another 30-year-old promise to the people of Tobago that was finally delivered by this administration. Desilting of the Hillsborough Dam, a $60 million project not paid for by the Tobago House of Assembly, but coming out of the allocation from the Ministry of Public Utilities. And if our memory serves us right, and if we want to be honest about central government contribution to Tobago's development over the years under the People's National Movement, we would speak to the $1 billion project of the gas pipeline down at Cove. We speak to the $132 million project for improving electricity capacity at Cove. We speak to the $2 billion spanking new ferries funded by the central government. We'll speak to the Roxborough Police Station that was promised by the UNC year after year after year. They kept telling us we'll get it soon. We got the Roxborough Police Station, we got the Shervan Police Station, we got the Roxborough Fire Station, done by this People's National Movement central government. We fixed the Magdalena breakwater, refurbish the golf course at Magdalena, refurbish the Magdalena hotel, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The wastewater plant, the wastewater treatment plant for Southwest Tobago, I was there when Minister Hines was Minister of Public Utilities and commissioned that project, delivered that project in collaboration with the IADB. And the list goes on and on and on. So I cringe when I hear members of the Tobago House of Assembly trying to mislead Tobagonians, telling them that central government has done nothing for you, have made no contribution to your development. It is untrue. It is insulting the intelligence of Tobagonians, and that ought to be condemned and decried, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I cannot sit by idly and watch that happen because it is such an embarrassment to the intelligence of Tobagonians who have been wrong. As a government, across many ministries, we continue to cover the cost of national programs to the benefit of Tobagonians, whether it's the pension that is coming out of the Ministry of Social Development allocation, that doesn't come out of the Tobago House of Assembly allocation. Pensioners in Tobago are paid by the Ministry of Social Development. Your public assistance grant, your disability grant, GATE in Tobago is covered by the Ministry of Education, not the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Again, you all are free to go behind the Speaker chair and have the discourse, members on both sides. You all are free. Right? Thank you. Right. Proceed. Sorry for that interruption.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hope I get injury time. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the running of the airport authority, the running of the port in Tobago, Mr. Deputy Speaker, all funded by the central government of Trinidad and Tobago. NEDCO grants to Tobagonians, sports grants under the Ministry of Sport and Community Development, culture grants from the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, YTEP program in Tobago, all funded by central government. NLCB grants to support sport and culture activities in Tobago. The OJT program in Tobago is funded by the Ministry of Labour, central government. So to try to build this story that there is no help and no support coming from central government and all you do in Tobago is funded by the 4%, that is not true. I'm a Tobagonian, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and I'm all in support of internal self-government, improve autonomy and authority for the people of Tobago, and increase allocation to match with that autonomy and authority. The bills are before the House, and we hope to get the support of the Tobago House of Assembly, the opposition, and the independents in passing that said bill so that we can grant to Tobago improved and increase internal self-government. But when we lie to the electorate, when we mislead and provide false information, we are destroying our democracy. Because democracy is something that must be preserved and protected. And people, we have said, each person gets a vote and each person could choose who they want to lead them. But what good is your democracy if the people are being fed false information? They are not being allowed to choose honestly and wisely because they are being provided with false information. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, from the whole Russ advertising and the Do So movement, that is still very much alive and well in Trinidad and Tobago today. And some may say, what does that have to do with our development? It has everything to do with our development, Mr. Deputy Speaker, because you're clouding the minds of the electorate, preventing them from making an informed and educated choice and decision because you are flooding the airways with lies and hatred. Mr. Deputy Speaker, that cannot be a right thing to do. So...
I know I've been giving you a little leeway, but I would prefer, you just used, right? I prefer you use a different word, yeah.
Yes, so Mr. Deputy Speaker, flooding the airwaves and filling people's head with untruths. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have heard from those opposite. They're making announcements telling the people that it's a $1 million tax and so on, and they know very well that it is not true, and they continue to make those announcements. Mr. Deputy Speaker, these figures and these measures and all that we do as leaders and as a government will mean nothing if the people out there are being fed hatred and untruths and being riled up to fight. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I witnessed, and I'm sure many other members witnessed, earlier this week for the reading of the budget, the UNC supporters gathered outside, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and a member of this parliament is lining them up and telling them, oh, look faster coming, boo, boo, boo now. And they will boo. And that member went further as to put the strikers or the people who are out there of Indian descent in the back line and pull those of African descent to the front line, trying to send a message and trying to wreak havoc and promote hate. When we come in here to work on a budget as leaders, both of us, government and opposition, we come in here and we call ourselves honorable. You're out there on the sidewalk doing that, honorable nothing. honorable nothing. So you preach a message of empty your trigger and that kind of thing, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and then come here to complain about crime in your community. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have to set the example. It is we who have to bring this thing back. We are the parliamentarians who these youngsters and people look up to. And for you to bring busloads of people down in front of the Red House and tell them to boo and line them up based on racial orientation in this country, when we say every creed and race find an equal place, you do that for a budget exercise? As I said, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I've been here for 14 years, and I'm saying the standard has dropped tremendously, and we are not setting a good example for our constituents when we do things like that. That must stop. And you are not to act honorably just when you come in here. When you're out on the pavement representing people, you are to act honorably too. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to return to my presentation. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Tobago House of Assembly received this allocation, 4.4% of the budget, and I'm saying they received their full allocation last year. And I want to know, what did the Tobago House of Assembly do with its allocation last year? I think Tobagonians need to know that. As much as we say the allocation for this year is not enough, one thing that we're forgetting to tell the Tobagonian public is that the Tobago House of Assembly recurrent and development allocation, they can move left, right, up, down as they like. So money is allocated for recurrent. While we can't move it around freely in Trinidad, in the Tobago House of Assembly, they can take monies from recurrent and utilize it for capital expenditure. In addition to that, when we don't spend our recurrent or monies at the end of the fiscal year in a ministry, that money goes back to the consolidated fund. In Tobago, when you don't spend the monies in recurrent expenditure, or when you don't spend your money, you can keep it for another fiscal year. How much of last year's money did the Tobago House of Assembly save? How many contractors, Tobagonian contractors, did you give work? How many new Tobago contractors did you develop? How many opportunities you provided for small businesses and giving them grants and so on? How many Tobagonians did you fund to go get scholarships and so on to go to university? I understand that, yes, the Tobago Carnival is upon us. We finally got a budget of 12 million. I understand that the Tobago House of Assembly is also subsidizing Carnival costumes to the tune of $1,000. Must be nice. Mr. Deputy Speaker, but at the end of the day, it's the Tobago House of Assembly spends its money based on its preferences. So when they receive their allocation, they can decide whether they want to develop a Tobago contractor to build Scarborough Secondary School, or whether they want to spend it building a stage in the sea. That was their priority, to build a stage in the sea. And they told us it's the only one in the Caribbean with such a beautiful backdrop. And that's where they prefer to spend their money. It's on the Tobago House of Assembly to decide whether they want to provide jobs for Tobagonian students who went out and got their degrees and came back looking for proper work to help to lift Tobago's status, or you want to give it to people to troll and to shape the narrative and give them healthy, hefty salaries. That's your decision. That's your prerogative. So at the end of the day, we like to say other people standing in the way of development, but oftentimes we also are standing in our own way of development. I remember being a part of this government, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
This morning, it has been said that, again, all mobile phones on silent or switched off, please. Again, would not be tolerating any more noises from mobile devices.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I remember coming to this Parliament as a part of this government and bringing for the first time the opportunity for a measure that allows the Tobago House of Assembly to borrow for the first time. When Mr. Orville London, former Chief Secretary, was head of the Tobago House of Assembly, he did our credit analysis and so on and said, okay, we are fit to borrow. We came here and we made the case so that we can be allowed to borrow up to $300 million. The former PNM borrowed accessed 165 million. Therefore, $135 million is left there to be accessed. We want to find out why didn't the Tobago House of Assembly access this money? Fiscal 2021, 2022, fiscal 2022 to 2023. That money is supposed to go towards development. And these are the conversations I believe the House of Assembly needs to be having, not only with Tobagonians, but also with the national community when we make these cries for more monies and so on. It's all about the same transparency and accountability that you call on central government to show. I think the people of Tobago deserve that same kind of accountability and transparency in the management of our affairs. But, Mr. Deputy Speaker, nonetheless, we have central government. We continue to advance Tobago's development and to make our contribution by contributing to the Tobago economy. Projects that would advance the Tobago economy, the expansion of the airport, making sure we have proper working ferry service, the cargo services between Trinidad and Tobago, and I know Minister Sinanan, Minister of Works, would speak more as to the cargo situation and the plans that are afoot, the building of the marina, the plans to build the marina. Hopefully we get the support of the and the cooperation of the Tobago House of Assembly, etc. So we are continuing and advancing in our journey to build a nation. It's not about focusing on the next election. It's about providing opportunities for the next generation. And that is what this PNM administration is all about. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we continue with our work in providing support for the UTT campus in Tobago, the Tobago Technology Center, the National Energy Skills Center in Goldsboro. I've worked hand in hand with many ministers to deliver services to Tobago. Recently, I worked hand in hand with Minister of Public Utilities, and we delivered projects to improve the water supply in Tobago. The pipeline project at Lowlands, Lambo, Mr. Deputy Speaker, booster station for Culloden, Cothill, French Fort, the installation of a 450-meter pipeline at Mason Hall, pipeline also at Canaan. I remember the booster station and the work done in the Shervan area, which has improved the water supply in Tobago West, Southwest Tobago considerably, providing much ease to the tourism accommodation, the hotels and so on in Tobago West, and we are very, very pleased about that. We provided, working hand in hand with Minister of Public Utilities, lights to the first time to Big Stick Gully in Bethel, lights for the first time to Pigot Trace in Camby, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And as I speak, we worked on the 2 water wells in Tobago, in Mary's Hill and in Signal Hill. And as I like to say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, they have produced significant water to bring us to a point of getting closer and closer to 24/7 water supply in Tobago West. And that is the work. After promise, many years, administration after administration, that's the work of this people's national movement, delivering to Tobago. And there are those who would like to sing another story and put in the heads of Tobagonians that, oh, the Prime Minister doesn't support them, even though he's from Tobago and he's working against them. They are building a political campaign based on hatred, and that doesn't take a country and a people anywhere. If you make the comparison, Prime Minister after Prime Minister, government after government, it is this Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley administration that has delivered to Tobago projects that other governments thought were too expensive and too pricey. You know how long we've been promised the refurbishment and expansion of Crown Point Airport, Mr. Deputy Speaker? Along with so many other different projects, the fast ferry. We're owning for the first time in our history these 2 fast ferries. Top class, Mr. Deputy Speaker. No other government did that for us. No other Prime Minister did that for us. And the investments made in Tobago, Roxborough itself is a new town. New police station, new fire station, new administrative complex, Mr. President. Oh God, if they did put that in Tobago West. Anyway, Roxborough has developed tremendously, and I don't know if they recognize what has taken place under our watch or if they're willing to acknowledge, but those who have eyes to see would see. Nonetheless, we continue doing our work, which is to advance the development of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr.